This is Mirror's Edge for Windows PC, developed by DICE and released by Electronic Arts in 2008 for the PlayStation 3, Xbox 360, and Windows. I played this originally on the PlayStation 3 a few years back, and this time I'm playing it on the Steam Deck. After you turn off the PhysX engine, it really runs great on the hardware. So if you're dropping frames on certain levels, check the settings. It really worked for me. Mirror's Edge is a first-person adventure with parkour at the center of the gameplay and a bright, slightly futuristic setting. You play the character of Faith, and you're going to spend your time running through various levels, trying to get to the end of the level alive and as fast as possible. You can grab guns from time to time, but that's not what this game is really about. Mirror's Edge is all about jumping from rooftop to rooftop in the middle of a city. You're leaping over obstacles or sliding underneath barriers, running up along walls and climbing pipes. It kind of feels like a superhero adventure to me, and I find myself just loving the game. On some levels, you have people chasing you, and on other levels, you're just going to be figuring out the maze they put before you. But it's always pretty fun. I guess this one didn't do very well when it was first released, but I've always liked it, and I think it really held up over time. With first-person games, I think there's a tendency to just expect to have a gun that you can shoot everything with, but here having a weapon like that is so far down on the list of stuff to do, it's almost a bother. I think I got through 5 or 6 levels before I actually found one. We get these beautiful office buildings, and there are usually a few different ways you can traverse a map to get to the end, but it's not an open world experience. There's a definite start and a destination to each level, but you might be able to make different choices in between. How do you want to run over walls? What do you dodge? Where do you go? Left or right? That sort of thing. Getting used to the controls is probably the biggest obstacle you're going to experience with this particular game. Predominantly, you're going to use the left shoulder buttons for your main functions, to jump and climb, and I think this is a bit of a hassle. You have a few different ways you can adjust the control scheme in the game settings, but they're limited. I think there are 3 different control setups, and none of them do exactly what I want. It's really unfortunate they didn't have a program in here for you to make your own mapping to the controller. I think that would have been great. There is a story to Mirror's Edge, but it's not something that I find particularly riveting. Actually, I find myself not really caring. I just want to get back to the action and start jumping across buildings again. Or maybe I'm missing a ledge and plummeting to my doom, one or the other. I don't think you can expect to jump from rooftop to rooftop for a whole game without a couple of misses along the way. As an aside, when you die, maybe you fall or you get shot, you actually get back into the game action really quick. It loads fast. I think that's great. I know some games you have to contend with really, really long loading times, but playing this one on the Steam Deck, it works fantastic. A couple of seconds and I'm back in the game. Back to the story. You play Faith. You are a special courier. Your job apparently is you jumping and racing around the city doing these crazy deliveries, but in this case, it turns out your sister is implicated in a murder, and by association, they think you're involved, so they're trying to get you too. So go running around the city looking for information to figure out exactly what happened. That's the best description I have of this, because I barely pay attention when those cutscenes arrive. The cutscenes are interesting, I guess, but I'm just not a fan. They have an almost rotoscoped look to them. They're kind of cartoony, and they look really different compared to the quality of the gameplay. Like, when you're playing a level, it looks a certain way, and the cutscenes are just totally in a different style. I mean, I think independently they both work, but it's a little strange, I think, pushing them together. It's like having a live-action movie suddenly with the scene that was made on, with animation. They just sort of clash just a little bit for me. I think it's minor overall. The handling is okay, but like I mentioned, I wish I could map the buttons to the way I want to control things. I would use a different button to jump, that's for sure. When you're running along, if you start getting in a groove, you will actually start to go faster, and it kind of makes the experience a little smoother getting around. When you hit those moments, you can actually turn on a bullet time effect, but honestly, I don't find much use for it in this game. I found myself forgetting about it altogether for a very long period of time. I just don't think it's a needed mechanic. When you're on a level and some real danger kicks in, though, usually that's when someone's shooting at you. This action music starts, it just kicks in and it gets you geared up. and then you know you're in trouble. And I have to say, when these scenes show up and you start running away, if you start really hitting your moves, it starts to feel pretty great. When you get through a particularly complex area, maybe disarming a bunch of guys or jumping over a really large gap and getting yourself to safety, it's definitely a rush. I think the maps are a decent enough size, but this is definitely a linear experience. You are not wandering around a city looking for information. You are doing level after level. That's not particularly bad, but it does feel limiting occasionally, if you really think about it. Because you can't go about doing it the way you want to do it. You have to go through the levels the way the game progresses. The overall experience, though, I guess it doesn't make me care too much about the map sizes. Like, I feel like there's plenty of content. It's just, you know, it's not quite as open world as I think people wanted. I think Mirror's Edge is great, though, overall. I guess if there was anything I would want related to this game to change, it would be, of course, the map. The control were different, and second, I do wish this had a map editor. I seem to recall some years back there was a way you could hack and get a couple of extra levels in there, but there's no utility to actually do this, and I think that's really unfortunate. I bet the community would have made some really awesome maps, and I could see that being a lot of fun. The next game that they released in the series was called Mirror's Edge Catalyst. I just checked my Steam list, and I do have it in there, so I'm going to have to give it a try. At first I thought it was a sequel, but some of the online text seems to indicate this might actually be a reboot? I don't really know if this game needs a reboot, because it's pretty great as it is, but I think after I finish this one, I'm going to have to load it up and give it a try. Well, that's all I have today for Mirror's Edge for the Steam Deck. Thanks for stopping by to take a look, and I hope to catch you on another video.